What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Commander video. This time I would like to review the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms Precons. These, which I believe are actually pretty interesting compared to what we received in the previous Commander set. For 2021's main Commander product of the year, it was a bit of a letdown for me. It wasn't very inspired, and the mechanics were just weak. There wasn't a lot of synergy. Now it seems like there's more of a focus on good keywords, interesting abilities, and there's something that is brand new that is introduced that we've never been able to play with before in this game. So the first deck I would like to go over here is Planar Portal. I believe the cheapest of the 4 decks, if you're just going card by card for value, has an estimated tabletop value of around $72, and I'm using mtggoldfish.com, by the way. Very good source of information for all of these Precon decks. That's usually where I go to. Main commander here is Prosper Tomebound, a very cool ability here called Mystic Arcanum. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. This whole deck, the entire purpose of building around Prosper is so that you get more treasure tokens whenever you play your spells from exile, ideally allowing you to continue your turn. Pact Boon, whenever you play a card from exile, you create that treasure token. Similar in idea to Kalane from the main set. I think this is a lot better though, because we have a ton of cool cards in black and red that fool around with the idea of playing cards from exile that we never really had a commander focus on that before. So already with this deck that is estimated to be the cheapest card for card, you get interesting playability. The secondary commander for the deck is Karazakar the Eye Tyrant, a legendary beholder creature with another pretty solid ability. Whenever you attack a player, tap target creature that player controls and goad it. If you like Marisi, this is very similar to that, but in red and black. It's going to be focusing on making your opponents attack each other rather than attacking you. But you also get a benefit in doing that. It's not just making them attack each other, because whenever an opponent attacks another one of your opponents, you and the attacking player each draw a card and lose a life. So the idea here is to just make each opponent attack each other, keep your Karazakar out there, and then just collect a ton of card draw. I guess we could say a third commander option, brand new for this deck here, is Lorcan Warlock Collector. If you like Tergrid, this is Tergrid in the sense that you're going to be stealing creatures that you're forcing them to sacrifice. It also works with mill, so you can use something like Altar of the Brood and force them to just mill their good creatures, and you get to steal them. What's great about this is that it's not like they can just easily get them back because they're turned to warlocks. And if a warlock you control would die, you exile it instead. So if they are able to kill their creatures, they're just exiled. They're probably not getting them back. Now this deck being the cheapest of the 4 means that it doesn't really have the strongest reprints. The best one I would say is Disrupt Decorum, which is still around a $6 card. But yeah, this is always a weakness for commander products, where you don't really have a lot of value outside of the commander cards themselves. But that does change a little bit if we look at the next deck here, Aura of Courage, an estimated tabletop value of around $95, mostly because we get some pretty decent reprints here for equipment strategies. I don't know what it is about equipments and auras, but a lot of those specific cards have been expensive for a long time in Commander, and we just get some solid reprints in this deck. But first, let's look at the main commander here, Gallia, Kindler of Hope. This is a Bant deck with this Elf Knight who has Vigilance. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast Aura and equipment spells from the top of your library, and when you cast an equipment spell this way, it gains when this equipment enters the battlefield. Attach it to target creature you control. One of the biggest disadvantages to playing an equipment deck or an Aura deck, it's most of the time a weakness for equipments though, it's the speed. It's not being able to quickly get your equipments out there and then easily bypassing that equip cost. This will not only let you do that, bypass that cost, but you get to do it from the top of your library. So if you wanted to draw into something like a removal spell, if you wanted to get through your deck a little bit quicker, you get to play the equipments and auras off the top of your deck. So that is very solid. But outside of that, not necessarily a new creative strategy, just taking advantage of things that we've already known were powerful in the Commander format. Secondary commander here is Storvald Frost Giant Jarl, 7-mana giant with Ward 3, a 7/7. Other creatures you control have Ward 3. So Ward is a returning ability from Strixhaven, which pretty much means that you have to pay 3 extra mana if you want to target a creature. And whenever Storvald attacks, you can choose one of these 2 modes or both. Target creature has base power and toughness 7/7 until end of turn, and target creature has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn. So ideally, you can use this to make one of your creatures a 7/7, and you can make an opponent's creature a 1/1. So that's pretty cool. Nothing that really stands out here about this commander again. The strength of this deck specifically is going to be reprints. We get Catti Brie of Mithril Hall, a 2-mana human archer here, green and white. First strike and reach. Whenever she attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each equipment attached to it, and you can pay 1 to remove all +1/+1 counters from Catti Brie. Deals X damage to target attacking or blocking creature and opponent controls, where X is the number of counters removed this way. So nothing really brand new here, again, just focusing on equipments and being able to take advantage of +1/+1 counters in a way that benefits you in combat. But reprint time, that's really the strength of the deck here again. Pure Steel Paladin needed a reprint badly, and this is the exact deck that you would want it in. Heroic Intervention is another massive reprint, especially throwing it into a Precon deck. Just being a competitive protection spell, I think is great. It's great value. Definitely above pretty much every other deck in this set. And Nature's Lore is another great reprint, believe it or not. Still around a $4 card. You get a good equipment reprint here in Sword of the Animist. So if you are playing a slower equipment deck, you are able to get your lands when you're attacking with a Sword of the Animist equipped to your creature. Utopia Sprawl's another great one. Been expensive because it's just overall a pretty decent aura if you're looking to ramp up. So yeah, I mean, those are pretty solid reprints, making this value for the deck above all the other ones in the set. And then the next one is called Dungeons of Death. This one is hands down the most unique, I would say, of the 4 decks, because you are focusing heavily on the new Venture into the Dungeon trigger. The main commander here, Sephris of the Hidden Ways, is almost entirely tied to that dungeon mechanic. Whenever 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, venture into the dungeon. This ability triggers only once each turn. And then we have a unique ability here, Create Undead. Whenever you complete a dungeon, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So going to focus on aristocrats, going to focus on graveyard abilities, bringing those creatures back, killing them off, getting this trigger on your opponent's turns as well, so that you can quickly get through that dungeon. Once you complete a dungeon, you can just bring back a creature. Because this is brand new, this is really what stands apart when we're just talking about what makes a good commander product a good commander product. It's introducing something that's never been done before, giving you unique mechanics. It's a reason to buy it. It's a reason to pick it up. It's not like the Commander 2021 product where it's just Strixhaven extended with some minor keywords, but nothing really significant, nothing that really gets the creative juices flowing like this. This also has some decent value in it too, around $84 tabletop value. You do get some decent reprints in here. Secondary commander is Nihilor, another really cool steal your opponent's creatures card. We see a lot of this in Esper. When Nihilor enters the battlefield, for each opponent tap up to 1 untapped creature you control. When you do, gain control of target creature that player controls with power less than or equal to the tapped creature's power for as long as you control Nihilor. Whenever you attack with a creature an opponent owns, you gain 2 life and that player loses 2 life. We're seeing a lot of this, like with that Lorcan devil creature. It's all about stealing your opponent's creatures and making it so that you're hurting them even more than just stealing their creature. You're also incorporating a bit of life loss in there as well. And then Men, Wily Illusionist, a 3-mana mono blue gnome wizard. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with this creature gets +1 power for each other illusion you control. And whenever an illusion you control dies, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that creature's power from your hand onto the battlefield. I think that's interesting in blue, allows you to fool around with illusions, and you get some sort of benefit off of them dying, making it a blue aristocrat strategy in a way, which is unique. I haven't seen anything like this yet. Value is going to be found in some well-needed reprints here like Phantasmal Image, still around a $7 card. It is going to see more competitive play because people are starting to recognize, hey, it's only 2 mana, and it can still help me in a lot of the same ways that the way more expensive Gilded Drake can. We do get the return of Wayfarer's Bauble. We get an actual reprint here of a pretty good card. Sees a lot of commander play, and it got brand new artwork as well. And this is weird because this is the only deck that comes with a reprint of Lightning Greaves. It's not the Equipment Aura deck, it's this one, it's the Venture into the Dungeon deck. And the last deck here is Draconic Rage. Main commander here is Vrondis, Rage of Ancients. I believe I showcased a deck on my channel not so long ago, but this is a really cool enrage ability. That's something that's returning from Ixalan. So whenever Vrondis, Rage of Ancients is dealt damage, you get a 5/4 red and green dragon spirit creature token with, when this creature deals damage, sacrifice it. And whenever you roll one or more dice, you may have Vrondis deal 1 damage to itself. So this has to be, in my opinion, the second most creative deck, if not the second, the third behind Prosper. Because I don't think we've had a commander option with this kind of enraged trigger. So it's interesting to see some combos, and you are able to combo with it. You just have to find some way of constantly recasting your Vrondis so that you get more dragons, so that you can get the trigger off of something like a Warstorm Surge. But really focusing on dice is what sets this commander option apart, and what sets this deck apart. Has a tabletop value of around $86, so not doing too bad either. We also get in this deck some pretty decent backup commander options as well. We have Klauth Unrivaled Ancient, 7 mana, red and green dragon, with flying and haste. Whenever Klauth attacks, add X mana in any combination of colors, where X is the total power of attacking creatures, so that's hopefully going to be at least 4. Spend this mana only to cast spells, so that keeps it from comboing with any kind of extra combat activated ability that you can just keep funneling that mana into, but still going to be a decent ability, kind of like a Savage Ventmaw, which by the way also happens to be included in the same deck. Another backup commander here is Wolfgar of Icewind Dale, another unique commander because it takes something that was already cool, being able to get additional triggers off of an ability. This is something that goes all the way back to Panharmonicon and Kaladesh. If a creature you control attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Red and green, or just any kind of combat-focused creature deck, tends to be a bit boring for me, so something like this that does make it a little bit more competitive, a little bit more interesting beyond just, let's try to deal commander damage, or let's just try to deal 40 through combat. Anything that goes beyond that gives me something to build around, gives me something to actually care about. And the value in this deck goes beyond just reprints. We do get some decent reprints in here, but look out because we have some pretty cool brand new cards like Neverwinter Hydra, 2x and 2 green. When it enters, you roll XD6, that's a 6-sided dice. It enters with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the total of those results. So let's say you put 3 into X, which would mean you're paying 8 mana total. You have to roll 3d6. So it ends up with the total number. I think it's fun, and it is going to synergize with Vrondis because you're rolling dice with that ability. And probably the card I think is going to age really well here, Druid of Purification. Brand new card. Enters the battlefield starting with you. Each player may choose an artifact or enchantment you don't control. Destroy each permanent chosen this way. Holy cow, in a multiplayer game, the fact that they can't target anything you control is brilliant. It's going to fit well into a lot of political decks. It's going to fit in well for a lot of group hug decks in green. It's going to give you that extra edge for removal. We get a good reprint here in Skyline Despot that's still around a $5 card, bringing back that Monarch mechanic and giving you some dragon synergies too. Rishkar's Expertise is a great draw spell, been one of my favorites for a while, still around a $4 card. Kindred Summons getting a reprint is making this deck really popular. That was a huge card going back to Commander 2017 because we have a lot of good elf decks, we have a lot of good sliver decks, a lot of good dragon decks that just absolutely go off with a card like this. So in conclusion, I think this is a brilliant Commander Precon product because each deck is going to offer you something. If it's not creativity and abilities, it's decent reprint value. But for me, I always look for creativity and what you're able to build around. That's the most important thing for these decks. They have to introduce something new. These are brand new cards, they're mechanically unique. You're not going to see them in just your typical expansion. So if they don't do anything unique like the ones from Commander 2021, I don't want to say all of them, I don't want to make that kind of blanket statement, but I just felt very underwhelmed by that product because it had the tie-in with Strixhaven, but the lack of innovation with those abilities from Strixhaven as well. So it just felt very empty for me. This does introduce brand new mechanics, especially playing from Exile, making that a theme, fooling around with the dungeons, getting a benefit off of that Enrage ability, making Enrage a commander ability now. It's so great, and I would highly recommend any of these decks to you. I think it's definitely a step up from where we were before. But anyway, let me know what you think about them in the comment section below. Void here signing off. See you all next time.